what we want to do is we want to be able to take phrases. Thank you. We want to be able to take phrases and put them into an equation. So we got to be able to manipulate something that's in words and come up with an equation so then we can solve the equation. So we want to work with just different algebraic phrases that we have, and then we will talk about decimal parts of a number, which is very similar to fractional parts of a number that we've already worked with. So the first one says the sum of a number and 7. How can you write an equation, or this is just a phrase, so it's an expression. How can we write an expression that deals with the sum of 7 in a number, that represents the sum of a number and 7? Okay. X plus 7. That's all we have. Sum means what? Addition. So we want the sum of a number and 7. So the number, we don't know what that number is, correct? You could use any variable you want. People are just used to using X. You could use N. It's a number plus 7. You could use X. You could use the letter of your first name. It's a variable plus 7. How do you show 7 less than a number? Jordan. X minus 7. Now keep in mind it's not 7 minus X. You're 7 less than a particular number. If you're 7 less than 10, what's your answer? 3. It's not negative 3. So make sure you understand which way you are subtracting it. The next one, the opposite of a number decreased by 5. Now the handout is for you to go ahead and write these on so that if you need to go back and look at it, you can. Jordan. Anybody else? If we look at it where it says the opposite of a number, that's represented with the negative in front of it. And then if you look at decreased by 5, that is shown right here. So you do have the opposite of a number decreased by 5. And that is the way that you would show that expression. Question on any one of those? So the next one, the sum of the opposite of a number and negative 5. Jared. Close. Read it again.
Oh, plus.
No. You're okay with showing it as minus 5. What's he missing? Jonah, do you know? The negative X, because it says the opposite of a number. So if we write this, the opposite of a number means negative X. The sum says you're going to put a plus negative 5. Please do not leave your answer in that format. That needs to be simplified because in your problems, have you ever seen plus negative? No. So I was pleased to see that Jarrett did say that's just going to be a minus 5. Just skip the opposite part. That's all right. Good job, though. The next one, the product of twice a number and 8. Kane.
Quantity of X times 0 times 8.
That will work. You could say it is 2x times 8. You could say it is 8 times 2x. Twice a number, if you just look at what twice a number is, that's shown as 2x. Product means multiply, 8. The product of 2x, or twice a number, and 8. Question on that one? Yes. No, that is saying, that's different. That's squaring a number and not taking it twice. Okay, for an example, if a kid is 5 years old, what is twice his age? 10. It is not 5 squared, which is 25. See the difference? Yep. Good question, because I see that a lot. When it says it's twice, people want to square it. Awesome question. Brought up a point that I forget. Kids always make that mistake. Yes. Oh, answer the next one. The sum of twice a number and negative 5. 2x minus 5. Even though it says sum you think of adding, you could show it as 2x plus, but your negative 5 better be in parentheses. But still, when you simplify that, this is the preference that you show it in. It doesn't say difference, but it says the sum, and that 5 happens to be negative. It's a call to my daughter's phone from Grand Island. I'm guessing she probably could lower her interest rates on her credit card. Maybe her warranty is up on her vehicle. Yeah, this is Leah's phone, by the way. Boyfriend, maybe. I'll have to ask her if that's the case. All the way from Grand Island, I don't know. Maybe she has been to 2 music things the last 2 weekends, so maybe, I don't know. All right, 5 times the sum of twice a number and negative 5. I'll give you a few seconds. Write these 3 if you could. So when you see 5 times the sum, 5 times means multiply the sum. 5 times the sum. The sum of what? Twice a number and negative 5. Now we want to simplify this part right here because you don't like the positive and the negative. So then it becomes 5 times 2x minus 5. 5 times the quantity. So it's going to be 5 times the quantity, 2x minus 5. Right there. The next one, 6 times the sum. So you put 6 times the sum of twice the opposite. Twice means what? Multiplied by 2. Opposite, negate it. Now sometimes people might show it as this, but you're inserting parentheses, which means then you need brackets. You're going to have to make something look like that. I think it's just easier whenever it says opposite, put the negative right out in front. So it's the 6 times the sum of twice the opposite of a number and negative 8. So once again, we don't like this double negative or the double sign there. So you're going to show it as 6 times negative 2 minus 8. 6 times the quantity negative 2 minus 8. And the last one. Okay.
Different special ones.
Yeah. Do we agree? Yes.
I do.
Product means multiply. Multiply what? 7 and the sum. So you're multiplying 7 times the sum of a number and 10. Yep. You know, you could use X, you could use N, you could use. All right. 2 more. If you would like to come to the board, a different person, and write one on the board, the answers in red and green are exactly the same. I think some of you, I heard you say, oh, I got it switched around. It's okay, it's the same answer. The sum, then you look for the word and. So what are you adding together? 3 times the number and -4. So I want to add those together, and if I take 3 times the number and add -4, that's the same thing as saying 3x minus 4. The sum of those two is multiplied by 5. So I need to take that times 5. So Johanna was correct. Now, if you want to put the 5 towards the back, you can. And what do you want, Bryce? Actually, when you guys walk in here, I'm just going to have to start the class, and I'm going to have to lock you out of all apps, probably. I'm going to have to do. Which is not fun, because then it rearranges all the icons on your iPad. The last one, the sum. So it says sum, find the word and. What are you adding together? -10 and 6 times the opposite. So 6 times the opposite. What's another way to write that? -10 minus 6x. There's the format that you want it in. Now, something else that would be correct is you were adding -10 and 6 times the opposite of a number. That's an x right there. Sometimes you can show it as this. I prefer this. You could say it's -6x minus 10. That's okay. This is okay. I suppose this would be okay. The sum of 6 times the opposite of a number, I would accept this as an answer, because that negative is now associated with the x and not with the 6x. So that would also be acceptable. Multiple ways to write that. All right, you have worked with fractions before, and it says a fraction of what number is something. Now we want to work with, and we talked about a box diagram to help with that. We talked about what does the word of mean. You had one on your assignment today. The one on your assignment today said 2 1/4 of what number is 72. Does that sound familiar? Yeah. So we said 2 1/4. The word of means what? This means multiply. So you have of what number? How do you represent what number? X. What does the word is mean? Equals. So it is 72. So there's the equation. How do you solve that equation? Right? And to bring it over, what operation are you going to use? Divide. So I'm going to divide by 2 1/4, which division by 2 1/4 means that you take 72 and multiply by. I need that as an improper fraction. What's that as an improper fraction? You are dividing by 9/4, which means you're going to multiply by 4/9. This is over 1. 9 goes into 72 8 times, and your answer should have been 32. Okay, but here's the problem. What happens if you have decimals involved? If you have decimals involved, the same thing. What does the word of mean? Multiply. So we want to change that to multiplication. Of what number? I'm going to use a different variable. Let's call it y, so it doesn't get confused with the asterisk. What's the word is mean? Equals. So you can come up with your equation. It looks like this. 32 hundredths of what number is 24 and 32 hundredths? How do you solve that? By 32 hundredths. So you're going to take 24 and 32 hundredths and divide by 32 hundredths. Okay, who likes to divide decimals? We talk about a way. What's a way we can get rid of those decimals? And maybe I didn't. Okay, we'll divide by decimals here. Move your decimal point over 2 places in the divisor, so you have to move it over 2 places in the dividend. 32 goes into 243 how many times?
7.
7, which gives you 14, and 7 times 3 is 21, plus 1 is 22. So you subtract, and you end up with 9, 1. Bring down the 2. How many times does 32 go into 192? 6 times. 6 times 2 is 12. Carry the 1, you get 18 plus 1 is 19. So your answer is 76. 32 hundredths is approximately what decimal? Or what fraction? 1/3. So they're saying 1/3, think about it this way, 1/3 of what is 24? That's just approximating, okay? So a third, this has got to be a larger number. What would you do to 24 to find that number? Multiply by 3. 24 times 3 is 72. So it gives you an idea of where your answer should be. Here's another example. What decimal part of 42 is 26 400ths? Can we write the equation? What decimal part? X. The word of means multiply. Then you have 42. The word is means equals 26.04, 26 400ths. Now this is smaller, right? Is it a little more or less than half? 26 is what compared to 42? A little more than half, because half would be 21, right? So what does that tell you about your decimal number? It's going to be over 0.5 because it's a little bit more. So we're going to divide both sides by 42. So you're going to take 26 400ths and you're going to divide by 42. This is a whole number, so your decimal point just goes straight up. 42 goes into 260 how many times? 6. 6 times 2 is 12. You get 24 plus 1 is 25. And we said it's going to be a little over 0.5, which it is. So we subtract, and that leaves you with 8. Bring down the 4. 42 goes into 84. Twice. So your answer is 62 hundredths, which makes sense. Think of your whole numbers. 26 is a little more than half of it. So your decimal's got to be greater than 0.5. You want more than half of it. Question. Do you see how to write the equation from the words? That's a key thing. All right, the last type you could have. You have 42 hundredths. The word of means multiply. 86 is means equal to what number? So to solve, what do? You just multiply the two numbers together. 86 times 42 hundredths. $36 1200ths. It's got to be less than what? Less than 42. If it were a multiple choice test, I could already rule out anything that's greater than 42 because 0.42 is less than half. Half of 86 is 43. 42, I think. I don't know. Got anything less than 43? Here's another thing to think about. If this were, where do you use percentages or decimals at? I think of these as percentages. This is a sale. You have a piece of clothing or something you want to buy that costs $86. And they're going to tell you that it's 42% off. And you're trying to figure out, okay, do I have enough money to buy that since it's 42% off? Or do I just buy it because it's on sale? So sometimes if it's 10% off, do I just go ahead and buy it because it's on sale? What is this actually telling you? If you think about 42% off, a good way to estimate that, what's 10% of that? 8.6. I could estimate this. I could estimate a little bit, and I could say that's close to $90. 10% of $90 is $9. You got 40%. That's almost, well, 42%. That's about 40%. So if 10% is 9, 40% is how much? 36. So you're going to take $36 off of that. Or you're paying how much? You're paying close to 60%, right? So 60%, about how much is it going to cost you? Take that 9 times 6, 54. You're going to be paying about $54 for it. That's just an approximation. An approximation. We realized that if we were to actually calculate it, if you talk about 4% of that is 10% of that is 860. Just say 8.5. 8.5. What's 8.5? What's 20% going to be? $17, right? So 40% is going to be double that 20%. What's 17 double? 34. Are we close to that in what we saved? Yeah. Do you see how you can estimate and see if that makes sense? I can tell you a lot of times on like the ACT test and stuff like that, it's not really how much you know, like on how to calculate stuff. But if you can at least just think through things like this, because the ACT test is a time test. You get 60 questions and you get 60 minutes to do it in. So that means about a minute per problem. And some of them are long when you read through them. So you want to be able to pick up that pace a little bit with some of them. So just being able to approximate some answers is going to help you. Okay. Your assignment is going to be page 127. You have a test coming up, which is after lesson set 32. Parent-teacher conferences is Thursday of next week. You are looking at a test prior to that, possibly by the end of the week, or at least by Monday. Probably on, good chance it could be on Friday. Just give you